Toronto police are asking for your help in figuring out who built a large underground tunnel in the city's north end and why. CBC News first told you about the discovery yesterday. We've learned some new details since. The tunnel is 10 meters long. It's located on land near York University in Toronto's north end. Police say they now believe the materials used to build it were stolen from the nearby Rexall Centre. It is one of the venues for this summer's Pan Am Games for the tennis. They say they have informed security officials in this country and around the world of their find. They want to know if a similar tunnel has been found elsewhere. And Deputy Chief Mark Saunders says police are unclear what the motive for this hole is.
But you can see in the detail that whoever decided to build this took quite a bit of time to build this and to make sure that the structure was well. So we need to know who the persons were that actually took the time to put this this thing here in a very secluded area. If at any point in time we feel that there is a public safety issue, it would come out. So we err to the side of caution when it comes to public safety. At no point in time was there anything that indicated that there was a public safety issue, so that was why we held on to the investigation. There's nothing right now that suggests that this is criminal. We're trying to find and establish who built it, why they built it, what were their intentions. In light of today's present circumstances, anything that we don't have an answer to, we want to fully explore. We want to get the answers, and if it compromises public safety, we have a concern. So until we get what the intent is behind this, we're going to continue to investigate until we resolve that.
Okay, so you could see the Toronto Police Service releasing several photos from inside the tunnel today in a bid to get more information from the public. Joining me now to go through those pictures is Wretham. He is a former Toronto police investigator. You have a lot of experience with pre-planning big events, planned and coordinated critical incident response plans for the G7 Economic Summit, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game.
2 years ago, yes.
Yeah, must have been a lot of fun. And Caravana events, as well as serving on the Elite Emergency Task Force. So, I know we heard Mark Saunders say there's nothing to suggest that this is a public safety issue. I don't know, from my layman point of view, I think there's a lot to suggest that there is a public safety issue here.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell at this point, Carol. I mean, this could be anything from, you know, university engineering students wanting to build a party spot to something nefarious.
Wouldn't we know, though, if those students by now, the Toronto Police were sitting on this since January the 14th.
Yes.
They only came out with it now because CBC News found out about it yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to assume that the police, when they first discovered this, they've had surveillance on this bunker, and I think it is I think we can classify it as a bunker as opposed to a tunnel because it doesn't really lead anywhere, and it's enclosed and the way it's constructed. So I assume that they have been doing surveillance on it. However, that being said, you know, who knows from the very first moment that it was discovered by the city worker that someone who was involved in it didn't see it discovered, saw the uniformed police arrive to check it out initially, and they knew that they had been found out, so they didn't return to the scene.
Was that a mistake on the police part to send uniformed officers to the scene?
I don't know if that was the case. I only have to assume that was the case. That usually, from my experience, when this was found, it would be called into the communications center, and we always have to check on things before we make a lot of moves. So I assume that a uniformed police officer went to check it out. So
yeah, so that would have tipped off somebody right there.
Could have if they were watching, sure.
Okay, what do you think? What are the possibilities as a police officer? You have to think about the worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
What's the worst case scenario?
Well, the worst case scenario, I guess, is that this is something involved, a staging ground or an escape bunker. You know, you do a horrendous act at the games, and then you escape into the bunker for two reasons: to be safe if it's an explosion, and secondly, so you go undetected. However, there's really, there's just nothing solid right now. I'll tell you what I do find somewhat encouraging against that theory, though, is the fact that rosary was found there. And if these were jihadists that built this bunker, I don't think there'd be a rosary anywhere within 100 miles of the bunker.
Yeah,
so
with a poppy on it.
With a poppy on it. So, you know, I find that encouraging, if you will.
Yeah, but at the same time, it could be, I mean, you think, well, could it be somebody who has some sort of grievance, veterans or what have you?
Exactly.
Was this built in a way that would be something, you know, would this be an engine built in a way that maybe is similar to the way somebody from the armed forces would build something, or, you know, who would do this? Let's take a look at the pictures in order here, and I want to start with the dirt mound. You can see it here on the screen behind me. Let's go through this. What, as an investigator, are you looking for and at here?
Well, I can also tell you, Carol, that I have a construction and home building background as well, so I can tell you that this is very well constructed, and whoever did this put a lot of planning into it. It was engineered well, and they knew how to do construction and real good construction. Okay,
so you can see the entrance there.
Yes.
Is it, I mean, somebody must have seen something.
Yeah, in that dirt pile, but you know, I haven't been down there, so I don't know just how secluded it is.
Okay.
So
let's take a look at the next picture, which is the ladder, just at the entrance. If we could just, yeah, there we go. Okay, so that was obviously the entrance and the exit, and I don't know, a conservation officer found this. I would think that somebody would have gone to more trouble to hide the entrance.
Right, yeah, and you can also see the big blue hose coming out of there, which is pumping water out, obviously, and the real heavy cable going in to power it. Yeah, you know, it's really hard to tell what, you know, after going to all that trouble of doing this terrific construction job, if you will, to not make the entrance somewhat more secluded.
Okay, let's go right into the bunker itself. I'll take your word on that it's a bunker, because as you say, it's not leading anywhere at this point. So let's take a look at the construction here. Take us through this.
Sure, well, you can see here that these to me look like 8-inch wide boards, and you can see that they're laminated together. You can see the line down the center, so that looks to me like they've laminated two 2x8s together. A couple of reasons for that, I would think. To purchase 2x8s, it would raise alarms to go in and buy solid 2x8 beams anywhere. Or if they stole them, perhaps
police believe now that they stole them from the Rexall Center after the Rogers tennis tournament.
Okay, so it's, you know, 2x8s are a lot more common than 2x8s are a lot more common than 8x8s, if you will, or 4x8 big posts. So they've laminated those together, and you can see the way that they've crossed the nails, you know, double nailed it, which is the work of somebody that really knows what they're doing. I saw
like a contractor or something, like somebody who...
That's proper construction there, you know, and you've got the double top plate, and although on a couple of the beams you can see there's a gap, which, you know, isn't professional in that regard. However, I also saw a compressor, and it looked to me like an air hose. So I assume they probably had a nail gun down there. It would be very difficult to nail those top nails in on that angle by hand. So this shows me that they've had some good equipment down there to construct this thing.
Okay, let's take a look at the next picture, because this is a side view. Okay, take us through what you see.
Okay, so again, you can see the double 2x8s laminated together. They could even be 2x10s, but say they're 2x8s, and then the double top plate on it, and then it looks like they have started. Looks like there's an entranceway between the far end, and it looks like they've started to go out the other way.
And you mean through here?
Yes.
That circle, that sort of semicircle at the top. Okay.
And you can see the gap in the studs to allow them to get in there. Now I heard one report say that it might have been in the shape of a cross the tunnel. That there was two sort of wings out from the side. But again, I haven't been there, so I don't know for sure.
Okay, let's call for the next picture. This is the generator, actually, that we'll be looking at.
Sure.
And that was, yeah, so obviously they were going to, the generator would be for light and heat.
Correct. And the generator would also power the compressor that's right out at the front of the picture here. That blue tank is a compressor, so that would power the compressor. And then you can see the foam over to the right, and that to me shows that they made an attempt here for to suppress the noise of the compressor.
Okay.
And then this yellow down in the bottom here, I believe that's air hose that would power the nail guns to create this thing.
Okay. And finally, the most perplexing, getting a lot of attention today, is the next picture, and that is the rosary and the poppy.
And the cross still attached to the rosary. Yeah, very, very odd that would be in there. And again, I think it somewhat dispels the jihadist theory a little bit. I just don't think that they would have that in there if this was a.
But it does imply some sort of religious connection,
Yeah.
right? And you always worry about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like who does that? Who builds this and then hangs a rosary in there? It's very bizarre.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you'd be thinking, okay, who sells, as an investigator, where did they get that rosary?
Yeah.
Who sells those rosaries? And start looking around for that sort of thing.
And then the other thing that you would do, if it's confirmed that all of this lumber and materials were taken from the site, then that sort of closes that door. But if it's not confirmed, then you'd be checking local lumber yards, finding out. I as an investigator, I would check with some of the local engineering schools or students. I mean, we just don't know. So you've got to look at all the different avenues.
And the poppy, does that indicate anything to you? The fact that there's a poppy there? Do you think, well, maybe we should start looking around the armed forces or somebody who was once connected to the armed forces?
Yeah, that is. I mean, everything that we see as an investigator is a clue, and it has to be ferreted out to find out if there is a connection. So I think the rosary and the poppy are good pieces to go by as an investigator. So certainly, we always look for places to start and unique places to start. And this is certainly unique, being inside that bunker.
And as somebody who plans for security for big events and has done that in the past, would you be thinking, okay, now we have to go and dig around and see if there are any other tunnels out there?
Oh, absolutely.
Or any other holes out
there? Yeah, and I
there?
think Deputy Chief Saunders mentioned that they've spread their reach internationally to see if anyone else internationally has found a bunker like this.
Yeah, it might not even be national security. It could be somebody who planned a kidnapping or something.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It could be.
Yeah.
There was also that case in Durham where there was a bunker found last summer, I think it was. Yeah.
Which was for a kidnapping.
Yes.
A kidnapping situation.
Now that was above ground.
Yeah.
It didn't have the construction expertise that this one had.
Yeah, frightening. In some ways,
Yes.
it's very frightening.
It
All
is.
right. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Ron,
welcome.
thank you so much for coming in and taking
You're
us
most
through
welcome.
those pictures. All right. That was Ron Wretham with me in studio, a former Toronto police investigator and currently with Investigative Solutions Network.